Hey everybody, welcome back to my coverage of the PogChamps 3 tournament. This is the fourth and final quarterfinals consolation bracket match. Michelle Khare versus Mr. Beast. Michelle is the small underdog, the small rating underdog, and also she placed fourth in her group in the group stage. Mr. Beast only placed third in his group. So Mr. Beast, he was the favorite to win this match, but now he's down 0 to Michelle's 1. So he needs to win this game to take us to a tiebreaker match. Will he be able to do it? Let's find out right now. Michelle has the white pieces. She starts off with d4. We've seen her play the London system in previous matchups, so we're expecting her to go for a London system. We have d5 from Mr. Beast, and now bishop f4 from Michelle, going for that London system. We have knight c6 from Mr. Beast, and here Michelle meant to play e3, but she mouse slipped and played e4 instead, and this simply loses a pawn, which Mr. Beast happily takes with d takes e4, and now Michelle is she can't get that London setup that she wants to get. So we'll see if she can recover from that. Here, I think as white, you should go for something like d5, hit the knight, and after knight b4, we could see c4 and just try to justify this loss of a pawn with a huge center and misplacing this knight. You know, a3 could come later, and maybe you'll regain this e-pawn later on. I will note that after this d5 move from white, black has this e5 move counterattacking the bishop, which is very strong. But this is hard to see, and I'm not going to get into this line as, you know, this e4 move was not the best on move 3 anyway. So this is kind of the refutation after d5 here from white, but we won't get into that. Especially because Michelle didn't go for this d5 move. She didn't even go for it. She instead played c3, simply defending her pawn as it was attacked twice by the knight and the queen. So this is very good as well. We have knight to f6 and now knight d2. From Michelle. We have g6 from Mr. Beast. He seems to like fianchettoing his bishops, so that's looks like what he's doing. And now f3 from Michelle, which I actually like this move a lot because you're basically you're fixing this problem of, you know, before your knight could not come to f3. It's kind of hard to get rid of this pawn. You know, your bishop can't come to d3. You know, maybe you don't want to put your bishop there anyway. It could also come to c4 or b5. But you know, you're just sort of breaking down black's center, and after this f3 move, you can potentially bring this bishop back to f2 to help defend this diagonal. Oops, not that diagonal, but this diagonal. And also, this diagonal is already a little bit shut down because you have your d4 pawn on here, and your c3 pawn defends your d4 pawn. And also, if you castle kingside later in the game, your rook will be on this half-open f-file. So I actually really like this f3 move from Michelle. We have now knight h5 from Mr. Beast, so not taking this pawn, not allowing Michelle to easily develop. So I think this is a good practical move from Mr. Beast, and bishop g3 from Michelle. I think bishop e3 would have been a little better than bishop g3 because you're probably going to be castling kingside this game as you've already pushed c3 and d4. And when you play bishop g3, you're allowing black to take you and weaken your kingside a little bit. And also pick up your bishop pair. So I think bishop e3 would have been much better from Michelle here, but we have bishop g3 instead, and Mr. Beast happily takes that bishop, picks up the bishop pair, and now if white ever castles kingside, their kingside will be very weak. So now it looks like white has to go for kingside and a maneuver like king to b1 and either try to defend this diagonal with their bishop or queen, or play another king move and play king to a1. So regardless, it will definitely take a while for white's king to be safe from here. We have e3 now from Mr. Beast hitting this knight, and now knight to e4 from Michelle. Here's Mr. Beast. I mean, you could have taken this pawn. Probably it was better to take this pawn because now after this e3 move, you're probably going to lose this pawn. Same with Michelle. Michelle played knight to e4 here, but I think knight to c4 would have been a little better, just attacking this pawn, and black can't defend. So here black has to find this move e5, which strikes in the center, and it's basically this is black's best try at trying to keep an equal game. But we don't have either of those moves. We instead have knight to e4 from Michelle, and now f5 from Mr. Beast, hitting this knight again. And I actually like this move from Mr. Beast, you know, just grabbing the center. And it's okay that he's weakening his kingside because he hasn't committed kingside castling yet. He can still castle queenside perfectly fine. So it looks like Mr. Beast will go queenside in this game. We have knight to g5 from Michelle, and here e5 is a really nice move. Discovered attack on the knight and just striking in the center. You know, this is actually a very nice move from Black. Black would have a fantastic position after this. But Mr. Beast doesn't find this e5 move. Instead, he plays queen d6, and his idea here is he's going after this weak g pawn, and it would be a fork on the king and the knight. So let's see if Michelle sees it. She'll have to play a move like f4 or knight to e2. But she plays neither of those moves. She plays queen to d3, though I will add it's not as bad as bishop to d3, which might be a move that white could play here, because this actually leads to a mate in 2. Now it doesn't matter if the king goes to f1 or e2. Now the king no longer has this d3 square available to escape. So this would be checkmate. So that would have been the worst move in the position. But we have queen d3 instead. And this does not defend the g-pawn either. So Mr. Beast happily takes this with queen takes g3 check. We have king d1, and Mr. Beast picks up the piece. So Mr. Beast is up a piece. White's king is not doing too safe. So Black just needs to get his king safe and try to convert this position. We have knight e2 now from Michelle and f4, solidifying this e3 pawn right here. And this will be a thorn in White's side for a very long time. It will be very hard to remove. We have we simply have g4 now, maybe hoping for this f takes g3 en passant move to try to break down this e3 pawn. Maybe g3 probably would not have been good because it simply hangs a pawn. But yeah, Mr. Beast here, he can go for this f takes g3. This g4 move from Michelle also stops Mr. Beast from playing bishop f5, so I think it's a good move in that sense. But yeah, we have g4, and let's see how Mr. Beast continues. We have bishop d7, which I think is a good move, just preparing to castle queenside, and now a4 from Michelle. And here Michelle recognizes that Mr. Beast is going to castle queenside. She recognizes she's down a piece, and she thinks, okay, I need to get some counterplay against Black's king. He's going to castle queenside, so I need to start trying to open up the king's side. So, or queenside, excuse me. So I really like this a4 move from Michelle. Mr. Beast does castle queenside, and we have b4. Michelle is continuing her queenside pawn storm. And here, as Mr. Beast, I think e5 is just a really nice move, because you got to develop this bishop, and you also want to open up the center, as White's king is very weak. Also, you want to open up this d file because the king and the queen are aligned on this d file, and you've got a rook on this d file, so that will be very good. This e5 move would have just been fantastic from Mr. Beast, but instead we have b6, not opening up the center, not helping this bishop get developed, and just weakening the king. This is, I mean, White can already play queen a6 here. It doesn't do too much, but it could be the start of an attack. So here Mr. Beast needs to start attacking on his own and not just be making these weaknesses in his king side for no reason. We have a5 now from Michelle, and here Michelle obviously wants to open things up on the queen side to get some counterplay against Black's king. Here b5 would have been definitely very good, just shutting things down, keeping both the a and the b files closed, and keeping this diagonal closed as the queen defends the b pawn. But instead, Mr. Beast plays b takes a5, and after b takes a5, now White has a real threat, which is queen to a6, and after king b8, rook b1, and it will be really bad. Black will have to give up a lot of material to avoid getting checkmated. Here you have to play a move like knight to b8 or to defend this a6 square, or you could play a move like bishop to e8 to give your king this d7 square to escape. Knight b8 is probably better here, but yeah, also knight b8, a very hard move to find. Mr. Beast instead plays h5, playing on the wrong side of the board, and this is totally losing for Black now. After this queen a6 check, Black only has one move, king b8, which Mr. Beast plays, and rook to b1 check. Now, if the king comes to a8, it will be checkmate in 1. Black only has 2 other legal moves. If you play queen b5, then this just loses the queen, and it's the same deal. So Black can actually save it here by first sacrificing the knight, and now the bishop defends this b5 square. So now when you block with the queen, after white takes, you can take with the bishop, and now black will have to play this position, which is still totally losing for black. So white has a queen and a knight for the rook, and also black's king has no safety. So this is still totally winning for white, but it's all that black has anymore. And it looks like Mr. Beast is not going to be surviving this match because he plays king to a8, the much more natural move. You know, maybe a little bit of time pressure there, but also this, you know, this knight b4 move is very hard to see. You know, sacrificing all of the material just to avoid checkmate, and you're still in a complete losing position. So yeah, there's just nothing black can do here. We have king a8, and Michelle sees the checkmate, queen b7 checkmate, and takes the second game. She shuts out Mr. Beast and eliminates him. She will be moving on to the semifinals, and here are those standings for you. We've got Pokemon versus Michelle Khare happening later today, and Nico versus Tubbo, the second semifinals match in the consolation bracket. The winners of those two matches will be playing in the finals, and I'll be covering all of those matches. So, yeah, pretty good play from both players here, and we'll just have to see how Michelle continues. And I hope Mr. Beast continues playing chess because he is a promising player. I think he's improved a lot since the start of this tournament as well, since he had that first lesson with Hikaru. I think he's improved a lot. So we'll just have to see what happens. I don't think I have anything else to say about this game or this match. So thank you for watching. Love you guys. And check out another chess video over there. Stay subscribed. I'll see you next time.